Good morning. Thank you for inviting me to this wonderful workshop. So I'm from Scripps Institution of Oceanography, which is part of UC San Diego. I'll tell you a little bit about what I do and where I come from, and a little bit about Scripps to give you an idea of what happens on a regular basis. And Rosa knows all about this. She's from Scripps, or she got her PhD there. So, and then I'll tell you a little bit about tips and tools of working with the media, working with your communications office. And hopefully this will be very interactive, so please stop me with any questions, concerns, or anything you want to say for the group, and that would be great. Okay, so here's... a Gilbert comic, and don't take this literally. Okay, so here's a picture of Scripps back in the day. Scripps was founded in 1903. And became part of the University of California in 1912. It began teaching through UCLA in 1938 and became part of UC San Diego in 1960. So it's now part of UC San Diego, but it started off on its own, part of the UCC system in the 30s. So there's going to be a quiz on this later. Okay, so what we do a little bit at Scripps is oceans, earth, atmosphere, a little bit about who we are in terms of graduate student staff, professors. As I mentioned, we cover the oceans, every aspect of the mantra we put out there is understanding and protecting the planet. So it's oceans, but it's also earth. We actually, a lot of people don't know that. We study the solid earth well. We have a big seismology group, study earthquakes, volcanoes, geochemistry, geophysics, geology as well. And the atmosphere, we have a climate group. We started a carbon dioxide measuring database called the Keeling Curve now. It measures carbon dioxide since the 1950s. And it's one of the modern benchmarks of climate change. We do study at the poles. And like I said, we study climate, we study drought, which is a big issue here in California. We study human health, as looking for new resources for human health and therapies from the oceans, since a lot of the sources from Earth terrestrial sources have been dried up, and so we're looking to the oceans now for new therapies. And we have ships. We have a brand new ship called the RV Sally Ride that was just launched a month and a half ago. And so these ships go off California and all over the world, study the oceans and atmosphere and all that good stuff. And we have an aquarium as well for outreach and education to help our get the message out about Scripps and to educate students in the region, in San Diego region and beyond as well. Okay, so with that snapshot, we have a very busy communications office because we're covered around the globe. Reporters contact us. We send out news releases and posts and things, blogs, to let people know what's happening within Scripps. And so we work with journalists and bloggers on a daily basis. So the communications office is part of the Scripps mission, which is to seek, teach, and communicate scientific understanding of the Earth, of the planet, for the benefit of society and the environment. So we're part of the actual statement and mission statement of Scripps. And here's a little bit of what we do. So part of our mantra and part of why I'm here today is to help our scientists prepare for media requests, interviews. We do media training a couple times a year where we do somewhat like this, where we talk to our scientists, postdocs, grad students about working with the media, and we actually put them hands-on training. And I think we'll do a little bit of that this afternoon. So we talked a lot about this already, so why be interviewed? And I'm going to tell you a little bit about the journalists have their goal of having stories read, selling newspapers, selling TV ads, commercials. But I'm going to say it's to get your message out. You can use the media to give them your top 2-3 messages from your science, and hopefully everybody can get what they want out of your interview. And inform the taxpaying public, we already talked about that, inform the graduate science community, and promote your institution. And communications office works so hard, so helping them promote your institution is always a good thing. news media are very effective in getting science communication out. More people are doing it on their own, more scientists are doing it on their own, but the media still is a good way to tell the world what's going on. People are still very interested in science. Like they don't understand a lot of it, they don't understand a lot of what you do and the process to get there, but they're still very interested in it, and we should tell them what we're doing. Okay, so some scientists like to go out on their own. I'm going to argue that working with the communications office is a good thing to do. We're here to help promote your papers, your studies, your conference presentations. And other times they might be helpful is when a member of the media has contacted you directly and they can help you, tell you about this journalist, whether they've had interactions with them before, whether they've had the good or bad experiences, and help prepare for the actual interview. So we will contact you when we have an expert, or a journalist looking for an expert in your field, interview you about your results, of course, and to sometimes journalists come on campus and just looking for general ideas, and we might contact you to say, hey, here's an interesting group, here's an interesting things they're working on, so would you meet with them, talk with them, show them your lab, and tell them what you're doing. So a little bit about the media today and general news trends. More people are getting the news, or science news especially, even if they're not looking for it, in different ways with social media and mobile devices. There's new ways of reporting the news. People get it from all kinds of different news stories on drought, on climate change. We talk about earthquakes, whenever there's a shark sighting or interaction with shark. It goes crazy. So science is in the news one way or the other a lot these days, and here are what the journalists are all about. Who are they? They are multitaskers. They're doing many different things. Back when I first started in communications, there were many more just dedicated science journalists. And today, there's fewer and fewer of those, and now there's more multitaskers, especially in TV, when TV reporters will be covering an election one day, and then they'll be covering your science discovery the next day. So they're professionals, they're not enemies, they may or may not be your friend, especially after the story comes out. And they've done many, many interviews in the past, and so daily newspapers and TVs will churn through stories on a daily basis, so yours will be one for that day and they'll move on to another one the next day. So the different types of news, papers, presentations, we send out news releases. We work with scientists to make sure we get the content right and send it out proactively. We have reactive news when the news media call us out of the blue when there's something that we didn't even know was happening and we need to link in with an expert. Other things you might think about besides just your paper and your presentation, and there might be an interesting angle in terms of business, technology, economics that may be tied to your research that might be interesting for the news media, or if there's a specific phenomenon in your region that the local newspaper or TV will be interested in. And again, your communications office sometimes has a beat on all of these things, so they can be helpful in getting the word out. If there's a sinkhole or a specific phenomena, a water phenomenon going on in your area, you and your team may have done some work on it that may not even be published, or maybe it's a side project that you're working on. If you alert your communications office that, hey, this might be interesting, and the communications office are good about saying, wait, let's wait on this, or let's tell somebody now, let's invite the news media in, maybe even a press conference if it's really newsworthy for that region in terms of what the news value will be. And I'll get to that in a little bit of what science considers big news and what the media considers big news are sometimes at odds. And so I think it's just better safe than sorry to just tell your communications office if you think something might be interesting or not, and then and they can keep you posted on that in the future. So what do reporters need from you? So the scientific publication process is very long, but journalists in general There's some exceptions. Magazine reporters can take weeks to months, but in general, TV, radio, daily newspapers, it's very quick. So they need ASAP information, which can put everybody under pressure, but it helps everybody in the end. You should know that you're not obligated to just drop everything and rearrange your schedule. You're welcome to call the reporter back, but there's only so much you can do when the person shows up at your doorstep over there. You can, of course, again, call your communications office and find out if they've worked with this person before. They don't know all the reporters, but they know many of them. Okay, so before the interview, a deadline drives much of this in terms of how much information they need, how much information they'll have time to get, and when their deadline will be set up in terms of your schedule. You can anticipate your tough questions, prepare your answers, and most importantly, the 2 to 3 points that you want to make. And that'll probably be good for the exercise this afternoon. But what are the 2 to 3 main points about your research that you think the public could and should know? And can you distill that down as something that your grandmother, your cousins, everybody would understand? Print reporters also love images. TV reporters love hands-on demonstrations, as everybody knows, when they ask you to do it over and over again. Okay, most reporters like keeping things simple and concise, which can be a challenge based on the science you're working on, your research. Know that nothing's off the record, and don't assume that everybody knows what you'll be talking about. If you don't stray from your science message and never stretch the truth. It's okay to say that you don't know something, because sometimes a reporter will try to lead you down a path for a more sensational story, but you need to stick to your guns and those 2-3 points that you want to get out there. No comment is something that was used widely years and years ago, but we recommend against it because it just makes people look like they're hiding something. You can explain your position, but no comment it's not good for anybody, the viewing public and the reporter and you in the end. Okay, so you guys know all about the process for science and science reporting in the public, and this goes for journalist articles too. The so what in the middle, the big statement on top, and then the supporting details, and then the inverted pyramid for your science there. So if you know what to say, you can say it, and we recommend bridging, which is going back to those 2 to 3 points. So if you ask a question, you can answer it, and you can use that as a segue over to your 2 to 3 main points as the most important. So you can say the most important points and follow up, and with descriptive language, examples, everyday things that people may relate to. Okay, some more interview tips. You connect to the outside world, what's going on in the world. That's always helpful for journalists. Analogies, as I mentioned, examples. Use simple terms, which is not always easy in your world. And then the jargon, which we'll get to more in a minute. Okay, so jargon, and then common language, media, science. Again, we talked about the quick turnaround for media and the long turnaround for science publications. Okay, and this is not my list, but it's very helpful. I've seen it used very much. So Richard Somerville is a climate scientist at Scripps, and he's extremely good, one of the best science communicators I've ever seen. And so he actually published a paper on science communication, and this chart was in there, and it just gives a really striking impression of the difference between the public language and scientific meaning. For example, error, what the public thinks is error, and bias, and manipulation. When you hear the word manipulation, that's, what's our taxpayer dollars going to? And in the science world, it's data processing. During your interview, it's okay to start over if you want to. Say you don't know the answer, or you need to speak to somebody else, and ask if anything needs to be clarified, and especially actual quotes. So if you're talking to a print journalist, are there specific quotes that I've said that I can help clarify you, or can the reporter read it back to you? They won't likely give you the whole story to read, but if they can disseminate their quote to you, and you can hear it and say, well, that's what I really meant to say, and you maybe misunderstood was X, Y, Z. It should be this. Okay, for actually getting on TV, and we'll practice some of this later on today. Moderate shades of clothing. I don't know if you can do anything about that today, but you look at the reporter and not the camera. Looking right at the camera can be a little distracting. Sitting or standing straight up is good, and avoiding distracting body movements. And speaking with enthusiasm to ensure the audio is consistent as opposed to going up and down and up and down. Okay, a good tip to know that you may be on camera the moment you meet, meaning the camera or audio could be rolling when they just come into your lab as opposed to when they actually sit down and appear to turn on the microphone. I've heard of things where audio was going and things were captured when somebody just was meeting somebody and they started talking about the paper even before the actual formal sit-down interview. Short sound bites are good, as much as you can. If you read prepared points, like I'm doing right now, it can come across as robotic, and so don't do what I'm doing right now. Some of the traps, repeating the questions, especially if it's on a sensitive subject, can lead to some tricky situations. Sometimes a reporter digging into a specific sensitive topic will not ask a question for a while to leave these gaps, hoping that the scientist will fill them in and blurt out something that then can be used, turned around and against them. So these gaps of silence can get uncomfortable. After the interview, like I said, most times you won't be able to review the story, but sometimes you are able to and you can check things over. If you've referred the reporter to somebody else and say, hey, you're a better source for this, then give them a heads up. And if there's significant error in the story, your communications officer can be helpful in terms of clarifications, corrections, or even a follow-up story that would clarify what the mistake is. Doctors rarely used in articles, except for doctors. Reporters don't always read the headlines, more on editors for that. And embargoes are something that helps keep the level playing field for when a paper will be published and when reporters can report on that. The journalists will set an actual date, and then reporters can do interviews and film whatever they want, and everybody agrees that nothing will come out publicly on websites or in print or on TV until that embargo expires. And some of the time spent on questions and for quotes and for reporters' own information.